Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Evangelion Death True Squared and the end of Evangelion. Now, I decided to put these both together because there really wasn't much for the True Squared one to really review except to just be like, hey, it is a different clip mashup of a lot of different stuff in the series that made it clear that Gendo had Adam in his hand. Thank you for that. And that we see Shinji, Asuka, Rei, and Karu do a little performance musical thing, but we don't really see it. It's just interspersed throughout the whole thing. I watched it and was like, wow, this. For only the Adam bit for clarification, that was about it. And with the end of Evangelion, that had already like cemented it better. So it's like, okay, that was just like worth like nothing. I'm like, okay, moving on. So we get to the end of Evangelion, and it really made me like the ending of the original series more. I really did not like the end of Evangelion, not because of what happened, but it's like the whole execution. I watched it and got through it and I'm like, oh, this will probably be complimentary. Maybe dive into some stuff a little bit differently than the original series, and it kind of does that, but it's more along the lines of the Last Jedi and Game of Thrones season 8, where it was almost like you could see the criticism that I had when I did my Evangelion review, and then completely kind of flipped it and just went completely ballsbuster crazy with it. Whereas with the series, I said that the characters kind of took over the prominence over the plot. The plot just mangles characters, and again, how it is done really kind of breaks with what happened at the end of episode 24, because there just isn't enough that is shown or alluded to get us to this point. That was the criticism I had with episodes 25 and 26 of the series. How did we get to that point? And this, it's like, how did these characters get to this point? I'm not mad that these characters are where they're at. I'm only mad at it because it doesn't follow with the characters that we've had throughout the series. It's almost like Shinji is back at square one and just like a plot device that is just utilized. He barely does anything, only except in the extreme cases of the instrumentality project and him making decisions. Other than that, he is just dragged around and really does nothing. It's almost like everybody's. It's this cocktail of like the creator being like, okay, here's the criticism. Fine, you want kind of shipping with like Asuka and Shinji. All right, here's this. You want to learn more about Rei and stuff like that. Here's this and stuff. It was almost like watching a creator be really pissed off at the people that are going at the creation and just like, now granted there's some people that are probably like, this, you need to do this, that, or the other, and some people just having like valid criticism and be like, this isn't as clear as it could be, what's going on here, and then just like almost doing fanfic to it. I've never really been in a position where I'm like, the creator kind of did revenge fanfic against the fans. That it's really kind of weird. Even thinking about it and kind of like talking about it, you're like, that doesn't make sense. But when you're watching this, you're like, this doesn't make sense. So we start off, and Shinji is pretty much at the position that he was in the beginning of the series to a degree of, I don't want to pilot the Ava and everything. He's kind of become a lump, and we never kind of really got that kind of impression from what happened at the end of episode 24. Even though he did kill Karu and that was affecting him, we had seen him grow throughout the series to kind of take these trials and tribulations and kind of move forward. This was just like a complete shutdown, almost on the level of Asuka pretty much going into her coma. And Shinji doing the whole masturbation thing really threw me for a loop, because he's like asking Asuka for help even though she's catatonic and everything and shaking her, because evidently Rei and Misato are scaring him. Why? I mean, I don't have a problem with Rei and Misato scaring Shinji. We really don't have any kind of like idea of why Shinji has this reaction or why he's in his head. And he's like shaking her, and then her like breasts are exposed, and then he masturbates and says he's like the lowest of the low. Again, it's a character development that comes out of left field, because there's like not as much build-up. We've not seen Shinji do that kind of thing before. I mean, there could have been illusions or whatnot, but if they were, I didn't really see them. I'm like, okay, that's a weird development. So we're already off on this, like, okay, alright. And it's just like, alright. And then we just get into the CLA people want to start the third impact and do instrumentality and everything. So we're like, okay, we're getting into this. So they essentially burn Nerve and send in people to kill them. They want the Ava, they want Lilith, but evidently they needed the Spear of Longinus for that, and they're like, well, we can't get that, so let's just get Ava 01 and use that for whatever reason. It's like, what the fuck? So all hell starts breaking loose, so they're pretty much killing a lot of Nerve people. It was almost to the point of being like, yeah, you like Nerve and everything? Well, we're going to kill all of them. It's like, this is kind of weird, alright. So they're like, alright, we need all the pilots inside of their Avas and all that, so that way, we make sure that they can't get them and all that shit and all that. And it's like, Misato pretty much explaining to Shinji, well, during all of this, that humanity is evidently an angel, and that they evolved differently pretty much, and that they're trying to use the Avas to do the third impact, so they've got to destroy all the Avas. I'm like, what the fuck? It, again, execution-wise of like, okay, this is a strange development, not giving me really much time to delve into this. The problem is, these can be done pretty well, but this is like almost an hour and a half. You need more time to kind of let that shit build up and everything. Otherwise, things are just going to be popping out of left field because you don't have enough time to adequately space this out. So Shinji's pretty much become Lump Boy because he's like, rah! I just want to die pretty much shit. I'm like, alright, we're back to square one. Do you do? And they decide to put the catatonic Asuka in her Ava unit and put her like in the bottom of like the lake thing, and they're like, alright, just keep her in there. They can't fuck with that thing when that's going on. And everything's just going pretty much crazy. They're trying to take over like the Magi system, and they're like, we got this, blah 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 blah, and it's just like bombastic motherfucking shit going on. And Misato's pretty much taking Shinji there and getting pissed off at him being pretty much a lump and pretty much getting Misato killed, which I don't care if Shinji is afraid of Misato. With everything that he's gone through with her throughout the series, he wouldn't have acted like a complete dick shit like this to pretty much get her killed. But that means that we are operating under the assumption that characters move the plot. This is the plot moving the characters, ergo Shinji can't do shit because the plot demands that Misato gets killed. Oh, and before she gets killed, she kisses Shinji and says that that's how grown-ups kiss, and then I'll show you the rest when you get back. I'm like, again, left field, fucking weird-ass mama, like, guardian, Oedipusal fucking shit, and I'm like, Misato never gave those kind of impressions at all in this series. Granted, most of Shinji's friends are like, Misato's hot, fine. We never really got those impressions from Shinji that he felt that kind of way towards Misato, and Misato never showed any kind of thing to even pretty much being open to the fact of fucking a schoolboy. But wait, there's more. She pretty much falls down and gets blown up by almost a bomb thing. I'm like, Jesus Christ alive. What am I watching? So, Shinji is pretty much elevator down to try and get into his Eva. But we see that it is stuck in the bakelite stuff and can't do shit. While this is going on, Asuka magically wakes up from her coma and is like, hey, my mom! And pretty much reconciles with her mom and then starts a giant, pretty well animated fight sequence. I can tell you throughout this, the animation is pretty on point. The content of it's like, okay. And she's like whooping all like these Avas that suddenly say like just pretty much had turned them into angels. They have the S2 engines in them so they don't need to be hooked up all the time. And she just starts whooping ass and everything, but then for some reason spears of Longinus start popping up too, and it's like, what the fuck? And she pretty much runs out of energy because her cable got cut because she had like fought off the forces before and she only had 5 minutes, and then she also gets stabbed in the Ava head with one of the spears of Longinus, and for some reason this now pops one of her eyes, or not completely pops it like a goddamn grape, but we had seen that yes, they feel the pain of these injuries. Never had it been shown that it would be enough to pretty much take out someone's eye like this. If that's the case, Shinji should have lost an eye because in the very first episode, that fucking angel fucking tonked his eyeball. But what do I know? I'm just talking about consistency here. Shit. And she, of course, then gets like pulled apart as Shinji's like, I can't do anything. I can't get to the Ava. The Ava then miraculously, almost on cue from the plot, bursts out and pretty much grabs Shinji and puts him in, and he gets out and sees that the Avas have like eaten and destroyed Asuka and the Ava Unit 2, and he starts screaming and pretty much turns devil fucking thing and is like, what? Okay. And it's just nuts. It's like, what the fuck? We also see that Retsuko is pretty much trying to blow up the place in retaliation to Gendo, and Gendo kills her, pretty much similar to what we had seen in the anime in the 25th and 26th episodes, so they at least expanded upon the Masato one, of course, Ritsuko, but Gendo had pretty much taken Rei down there to do his own kind of instrumentality thing, and pretty much gave her Adam in his hand. He's like, hey, now I can be with you. And he's like, fuck you. And then pretty much fuses with the Lilith body, which then turns into a giant ray and bursts out. And it just gets fucked up and shitty ass weird fuck from there, man. Like, I know it was weird how we got to instrumentality for the series, but this just, it was just like throwing shit against a wall, or like somebody did cocaine PCP and like some kind of weird fucking strain of marijuana and been like, this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be awesome. And those ideas sound awesome in that state of mind, and then it's just like, okay, because they pretty much do a reenactment of the crucifixion with Shinji, and he's got the stigmatas on his hands, and the other Ava things pretty much go into different configurations, and the Spear of Longinus, the real one, pops up, and they like pretty much stab it into his core, and Shinji's freaking the fuck out, but he calms down because the giant Ray Lilith fucking thing turns into Karu for a moment, and that calms him, and then instrumentality kind of starts. We get fucking turning into like a weird tree of life shit. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Evidently there was a black moon that like was underneath this geofront shit. Everybody's pretty much dying and liquefying at a certain point, and going into this chamber guff thing, because that's their souls, and the third impact starts like, this is like a consequence of the third impact. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And Shinji, for some reason, being at this catalyst of the thing, is pretty much controlling the instrumentality thing. It's like, oh god. And I like the series instrumentality thing more than what was going on here, because that Shinji I kind of understood was a natural progression of the character. This is just weird, even worse whiny Shinji than in the beginning of this series, being like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm like, me too, bro, what the fuck? And complaining about shit and not understanding people, and we get some of the stuff with like Rei asking him what's going on and all that, and of course Shinji gets a vision of seeing Misato fucking, and is like, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't approve. I'm like, why the fuck not? I mean, granted, I just don't want to walk in on somebody banging because I want to. But he's like, this is kind of weird and stupid. I'm like, okay. And then Asuka's being like really even amped up even more than being like, fuck you, Shinji. I'm like, okay. Almost pretty much saying, yeah, you guys who shipped Asuka and Shinji, fuck you people. Pretty much berating him and all that kind of shit. And of course, he's asking her for her help, and she says no, and then he starts to strangle her. This was a thing that I did not understand. Again, I could understand it if it was alluded to better and we actually worked to get to that point, but being dropped up in the middle of Shinji never even doing any of that kind of shit to anybody before, starts pretty much strangling her for saying no to him. It just is a weird character turn, and only works in this weird kind of space where the plot dictates that Shinji does that. Okay? Weird, man. All the while, we see, like, pretty much everybody dying, going into this chamber of guff, because Shinji pretty much wants everybody to die. And he wants to die too. And then, of course, we see weird interspersed live-action shit. And talking about, like, dreams and reality, where Shinji's like, well, I don't exist here, so what's the fucking point? It's like, oh, okay, we'll get everybody back together. And it's like, okay. It worked better in the series than how this was going on. It was very messy because it seemed very pretentious in how it was trying to say, I'm smarter than you. If you don't understand this, this is your problem. Even though I'm like, you are doing so much shit at once and just trying to just layer and try and do as much symbolism as possible and just be like, oh, this, that, and the other. I'm like, you're putting peanut butter, pastrami, and like bull testicles together and telling me that it's going to taste like ice cream. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how we got here, and I don't want to fucking go through that. No. And I understand what they're trying to say about, like, dreams and reality, and, like, how one, you're active in it, and one, you're not. There's, like, nobody else there. That's why it's a dream. And trying to get Shinji to be like, hey, listen, did you try to understand people? And he's like, yes, I did. And he probably kind of did. But it's not really shown that well here. And we also see that Gendo doesn't join in this thing and is instead eaten by an Eva because he was being an asshole to Shinji because he didn't think anybody could love him and he wanted to be with Yue, but he gets eaten by an Eva in his thing, and that's about all we get. I'm like, again, strange, weirdly paced thing going on, and it could work. I don't have a problem with the end. I'm like, you start flipping the script on me of like, okay, I like the journey there. We got a hiccup to the destination. Here, it's like, I don't mind the destination, but how we got here doesn't make any sense. And I just fucking what? Because at this point, it's the tree fucking thing. The Ava is pretty much the tree fucking thing that went inside of the Ray Lilith thing and is pretty much gooifying everybody in the world. And pretty much trying to instrumentality everybody into, I don't know, one thing? But Shinji decides not to do that and wants to let everybody be back together and have the AT fields up and try and find joy that way. And we see that Ray's thing kind of like her neck like Ray Lilith thing, the neck kind of spurts open, the Ava kind of gets out and takes out the thing and kind of flies off on his own to essentially be an Shinji does say goodbye to his mother on that thing because she wants to be proof that humanity existed. It's the thing that we've gotten, and it's essentially a Noah's Ark pretty much. Also, if you want to get technical with it, doing the same thing the Lilith angel thing did with the whole black moon. And I'm like, oh god, we just got the circles all over again. And I'm like, okay, that's flying out there. I don't give a fuck. And because he's chosen to end the instrumentality this way, the Lilith Ray thing collapses, and I'm like, okay, we see like body parts and shit flying everywhere, and I'm like, what's gonna go on with that? The other Ava things die as well, because fuck that, I don't know. And it's just the weirdest kind of fucking end at it. Let's see. It just really reminds me of Kingdom Hearts and how like convoluted this thing just occurred, because we get to the end and evidently people can like regain their forms if they choose to, but fuck all if anybody, like if I got goo fucking-ified by a weird giant ass space lady and nobody tells me the instructions of what the fuck is going on, do you think I'd be able to figure out I could create my own form again? Especially on a planet that's gonna be like fucked up by third impact, 3 fucking weird ass alien ass explosions, and what that would be doing to the world? I mean, fuck the ecosystem and birds, shit. Everything would be in fucking anarchy. Cats living with dogs. Mass hysteria. And I'm just like, what? And does this include Misato and Retsuko or anybody that died? Could dead people then bring themselves back? I mean, except you, as she's taking herself out of the system to fucking space ride it. Oh, God. But Shinji wakes up on the beach, and he's okay. He pretty much, somebody made a fucking grave marker for Masato, but he wakes up next to Asuka, who, if you could refix your own body from pretty much primordial soup, her arms bandaged up and her eyes bandaged up. How does that fucking occur? I don't know, because it's not important, because the plot has demanded that she just comes back as a pirate because she got fucking eye jabbed by an Ava. I don't make the rules. I don't even understand them. But he pretty much gets up and then tries to strangle her, and she caresses his face, and he stops, starts crying, and then she says disgusting, and that's pretty much the end of it. I don't know if anybody else is alive, and I don't get their relationship at all. I understood that they had an antagonistic kind of relationship, especially at the end of the series, but this was just kind of like, I guess just their Adam and Eve kind of parable kind of thing. It's like, it doesn't matter how smart you can be with something if you can't execute it and make it make sense within its own framework, because I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't even think Shinji or Asuka or anybody else understands what's going on. What happened to Rei? Because she appeared at some point and disappeared because, I don't know, she's like a space god now? It's like somebody's going, oh, you want answers? I'm going to give you the shittiest answers I can think of. How about that? Like, when you're looking and watching something and you get to the end and someone's like, you feel like this is what somebody's doing to you. You're like, what did I ever do to you? Now, this isn't going to ruin Evangelion for me. I'll still look forward to, like, any other kind of things. Maybe eventually get into the rebuild movies to see what goes on with that. But this was just like, I'm gonna keep the end of the series. I don't know how I got to that end, but at least it makes more sense than whatever the hell's going on here. Because that at least moved and progressed characters to an arcal end that made sense within the framework of what happened. This was almost made in a bubble and wanted you to accept certain things from the series and just say that, hey, the plot demands that this happens and that this is the way that it should happen. I'm like, when you're doing a story, you have to find the best balance of plot and character. If you focus too much on the characters, you won't really have a plot to kind of connect everything. It's like losing the forest for really focusing on a tree. Conversely, if you just focus on the plot and make that characters and their decision don't have any bearing pretty much on it whatsoever, you kind of lose out on that cool kind of character interaction. It's always a balancing act. I believe that the series had a better balance, even though it had balancing issues. This was just cranked up to 11, opposite pendulum swing, and was just like, suck these nuts, and wanted you to do it. And I'm like, I might like something, and it all goes down to like objectivity, subjectivity, what you like, and what are problems in something. You can like something and it be bad. Like, I can like the movie The Meg, but understand that I like it because it's stupid and dumb and has problems, and I can find enjoyment in those problems. You will never see me argue that that is a good movie. It is a funny movie. Conversely, there are some great movies or shows or whatnot that I don't like. That does not take down the artistic achievements of them. This is just like, oh God. Like, again, it's the execution, pacing, and just what is actually occurring within these time frames. It's like, okay, you saw that you had a problem with pretty much trying to show this off in 2 episodes, and you decided to just lengthen them a little bit and still have that same problem in 2-episode kind of structure. Because, to be fair, if you're going to be doing something like the Instrumentality Project thing, that could have taken its own kind of season to kind of deal with and understand. Even if it is an esoteric kind of abstract way of understanding the blurring lines of dreams, reality, who we are as people versus who we are as a society, versus, like, can society essentially be one giant organism that is considered one object but made up of all these different parts and people, and what that actually means. I don't think that was effectively explored within the end of Evangelion as it kind of was at the end of the series. It's just really kind of weird, because it felt like it was the creator being antagonistic against the plot and the characters for no reason, and just plot turns and choices and character choices that were just like really weird. It was almost like the objective was to make people completely and utterly hate Shinji because of some arbitrary reason. Because almost working backwards, like, okay, creator does this, I want the audience to hate Shinji. Okay, and that's about as far as they got. They didn't know how to take him from where he ended in Neon Genesis Evangelion and work that organically through what's going on, except you've only got 2 episodes put into a movie, you gotta speed that up, and then it just like seems more like a heel turn than anything. I was surprised that I saw this and I'm like, wow, this is essentially the same problems that we've had with The Last Jedi and Game of Thrones, but back in the 90s. So I'm like, wow, internet really amplifies that, because people get to talk to other people and talk about their problems with this. Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that could have worked out well, but again, execution matters. Would the whole reveal of Vader being Luke Skywalker's father been as impactful if the execution and everything had been completely different and completely changed and rushed? Where, I don't know, in the first act, Luke gets captured by the Empire, and is going through all these trials and tribulations and loses even more, and then at the end of the film you see like Vader go, "Oh yeah, I'm your father," and then drop kicks him like Sparta into a giant hole where he's almost going to be eaten by Emperor Palpatine. Yeah, that's a kind of giant fucking weird thing, but again, execution of it. If you are off in such the slightest, it mucks with it. Now, some things can actually work out through it. That's okay. I think that the series executed more than it misstepped. This was just like, okay, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. I'm like, alright, that doesn't mean it's always gonna be good. Because there are some people that's like, you know what's a good idea? I'm gonna stick my dick in a light socket. Doesn't mean it's gonna work that well for you. And not advocating for sticking your dick in a light socket. Don't do that shit. It's not a good idea. So, pretty much my feelings of I am glad that I watched this movie to understand what I like and what I don't like and how to like analyze this, and so I could be like, you know what? The series ending wasn't complete dog shit. And I didn't call it complete dog shit. I'm like, you could fix it a little bit, and I thought that this would do that. And I'm like, ooh. Nope. No way. So, I didn't really enjoy this. I don't like it at all, and just I'm glad that I've got something else for it, rather than like a Game of Thrones scenario where that ending fucked. So those are my opinions on these movies. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked them, if you didn't like them, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.